using your breathing and bracing, how slow and much pressure can I really use through my toes to lift myself up without losing my lumbar stabilization, without throwing myself around? Can I pause at the top for a second? Am I stable enough to even do that? And then...
Hello, and welcome back to the House of Swell yet again, where we will be bringing you tips and tricks on how to work out at home with little equipment while getting massive benefits and results. So here we are at our house with a ball. We kind of have a semi-softball. It's about the size of a tennis ball. A tennis ball would work, a lacrosse ball would work, this sort of ball would work. A baseball would probably work. A softball you're probably getting too big, and a golf ball you might be getting too small. Anything in that tennis ball, baseball range will work, and it doesn't really matter how soft it is. Today we're going to be showing you a really fancy version of a calf raise, where we're going to be putting the ball between our heels. Now, despite the fact that it's just really convenient to not have to use our hands to hold the ball, there are some other differences that this exercise gives us than a normal calf raise doesn't. One thing that this is going to be really helpful for is a lot of us, myself included, who have naturally high arches. When I go up, I naturally just want to go to the outside of my feet. Like, my big toes aren't even on the ground. My body's very good at finding stability and balance out here on the outer corner of my foot. Despite the fact that I can do that, I do know that that's not what I should be doing. By placing the ball between my heels, okay, it's going to put my feet in a such position that if my big toes come off the ground, I lose that ball. Okay. The other thing that this is going to be really great for is someone who has a flat foot or underactive posterior tibs. Okay? The posterior tib or posterior tibialis muscle is just a Latin way to say a muscle that runs through the deep part of your calf, right behind that shin bone. Like, if you move this tissue out of the way and get behind that shin, that's where it's running. Around the back of the inside of your ankle dome, or medial malleolus.
And then it's going to, when we try not to use too fancy of terms.
But I also want to make it very clear that I do know the term. And then it kind of splatters out across the bottom of your foot. Okay? Basically what this is going to help do is help supinate or kind of draw in the bottom of the feet. By squeezing this ball, our foot naturally has to do that action, and it's going to make it very easy for you to know that you're training the posterior tib without having to expend much energy up here wondering or worrying about whether if you're training the posterior tib or not.
I want to add one layer to this. So when you put the ball in between your heels, set your feet up so that your feet, the middle toe is pointing straight forward at whatever width apart your feet needed to be so that you can squeeze that ball. If that makes sense?
And what she's saying is, don't squeeze the ball but have your feet like this. Like, have them the same. They're mirrors.
Exactly. And the middle toe pointing straight forward is actual neutral of your foot.
The one next to the big one.
The one next to the big one. Okay, and then as we start to come up, something I see really often is people will try to use momentum to move themselves around here. And as much as it is, you are technically getting into the same shape, you're not doing the same thing to your tissues at all. So instead of trying to kind of ratchet yourself up there, I want you to see how little you can lean yourself forward using your breathing and bracing. How slow and much pressure can I really use through my toes to lift myself up without losing my lumbar stabilization, without throwing myself around? Can I pause at the top for a second? Am I stable enough to even do that? And then slowly come back down in the same fashion. You're going to get a lot more bang out of every rep.
One thing we do want to think about is the foot, from essentially the front of the shin to the edge of the toes, is not very long. Even with the longest of feet, it's not a very long lever arm. However, from the ankle joint to the top of the head is a huge lever arm. Okay? So what we're all very good at doing is moving this slightly to make the foot have a massive mechanical advantage. Okay? It's so simple to do and so subtle to do. One thing you're almost going to want to think about is leaning backwards as you press up, because your brain's just going to be so, your brain's so good. Your brain's sitting there like, bro, I got this. I'm going to do this so well. Did you know if you just lean forward, you can do this like 1,000 times easier? You do this all day. Don't do that. Do it the hard way. Focus on making your feet work hard. They will be wobbly, they will be waving, they will be staggering and strutting and doing everything that you don't want them to do. But that's cool, that's good, they're getting better. Learn where your feet and body are weak, and then let's work together to make it better. But don't just hide it and focus on the one way that you're already good at.
And don't forget to use this as a way to practice your breathing and bracing and your full hip extension. My lumbars are neutral, my glutes are totally turned on here to help stabilize me, and then I can get the full benefits of the exercise.
Yeah, one thing to think about is the minute your brain starts to freak out about your foot, do you lose this? If you lose this because your brain thinks about the foot, that's a problem. Even if you can't do the foot exercise, if you can't do this calf raise exercise, at least practice locking this in despite the fact that you're facing a task that you know you can't accomplish. No matter what's going on, protect this. This is your foundation.
Absolutely. Enjoy this posterior tib calf raise with a ball in between your heels.